Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. Of course, this is the hour of politics. Always with me, Anthony C, your host. Thanks so very much for joining us. This is an evening edition of the hour of politics. I have a gentleman who is comfortably seated. He was quick on his feet because the discussion is very, very important for the forward march of our country. The topic for today's discussion: political letters, the Cummings and Weah responses. Mr. Cummings was the first person who took us the pen and penned an open letter to President Weah. President Weah took out his pen. I don't know if he did himself, but President Weah responded. And Cummings gave a rebuttal. What is going on with these two political actors in Liberia? Is this what's going to put bread on the table, or is that what's going to be that magic wine that will put one of them on top to snatch in that victory in 2023? Dwalo is here. He never forgets about the young people and the nation Liberia. It's good to have you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I hope you can hear me. As always, my name is Ensu Opadualu, and before I start any show, I'll take a couple of minutes to just speak to the young people in the country.
Please do.
In Liberia, you have to understand your legacy is at stake. We have a dying society. Our country is dying. And we literally need every single person in the country, especially the young people. I always remind you, if you're over the age of 25 in Liberia, you are not a youth. Under any circumstance, you're not a youth. If you're over the age of 30, you're living in your future. It is incumbent upon you to take your proper place in that society. Our society will continue to go down the drain until you stand up. It is you, the legatees of Liberia, whose future is at stake. You have a leadership right now that is a kleptocratic arrangement. If you do not get involved, you will have no future for your children. Until you get involved, Liberia is not going to change. The only change that's going to come to Liberia is a change that you forced. Before I turn over to Anthony, I want to remind you what George Washington said. He said, government is not something you ask for. Government is forced. Like fire is a dangerous, dangerous master. If you allow government to gain that mastery over you, you will not like the consequences. You have to force the issue democratically, constitutionally. The issue must be forced in Liberia. Once again, welcome young people to the show. You have to take your proper place.
Eduardo, thank you for always, giving that powerful message to the young people. The future is for them to capture for, their own future. Thank you. We are also joined by Franklin K. Weah, a comrade. I don't know why the people come up with this ideologue thing, but he's an advocate. Franklin K. Weah, it's good to have you. How you doing? How is the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection?
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. Thank you for having me. We're doing pretty good at this end. I'm sorry that I just couldn't log into the show as per the link you shared. Mm-hmm. But however, I'm here and I will make my input as the show goes on. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you, Sare. We are expecting Rabo Gagwa. Rabo should be joining us momentarily. He's at work and he's doing all he can to be part of the discussion. Rabo, let's get to it. The issues in Liberia have never been serious. I continue to say we are at a crossroad. And so our leaders should not focus on their ambition. They should focus on the future of the country. Because they are our leaders, what they say, what they do, the decision they make, how they respond to issues affecting the country, all of those things matter. So Mr. Cummings felt the need to write President Weah to raise three main issues. Number one, the U.S. government sanctioned on 3 of President Weah's officials. Mm-hmm. He also raised the issue of Representative Solomon George, who asked President Weah that President Weah should appoint him as director of police so that opposition actors can disappear. Weah chair, he does nothing. And then the latest was, or the last thing was, election magistrate. The Senate has made a decision for all of them to be replaced when we are talking about the upcoming election. Whatever the motive was, we all know it's not looking good. So those were the three issues Cummings raised, and President Weah gave a rebuttal. Before we get to President Weah rebuttal, let me start with you, Dwalo. Do you agree the issues Cummings raised were necessary to be raised given the seriousness of those issues?
Well, it's a simple answer I'm going to give you, Anthony.
Mhm,
Absolutely. It was not just necessary, it was needed desperately in our society. You have to remember the
mhm,
president himself has negated his responsibility as president of the republic. He does not address the people. So whatever it takes to get the president talking, even though we all know he did not write that letter, it
mhm.
goes so far away. But we have to ask ourselves a question. It's not whether Mr. Cummings raised an issue. It's whether what Mr. Cummings raised are valid issues pertaining to our country. And if anybody argues to the contrary that they are not valid, I will question your capability on every level. They're all valid issues, and I believe we should talk about these issues. There's nothing wrong that Mr. Cummings has done. He did the right thing as an opposition political leader, and I think we should talk about these pressing issues in our country because if we don't, who's going to talk about them? How are we going to address them? So they were absolutely necessary.
Mr. Wissett, you heard my question. Cummings raised three issues that he saw were very serious, and he raised them to President Weah in an open letter. President Weah had qualms with the fact that Cummings wrote an open letter as though open letter is something that's supposed to be hidden. But I'm curious, what do you make of those issues raised? Necessary? Because President Weah is this one person. You raise issue, he doesn't talk. So was Cummings not wasting his time here writing a letter to President Weah?
Well, thank you very much. And I listened to Councilor Jackson,
Mhm.
and I couldn't agree with him more. I think the letter that Mr. Alexander Cummings told the President of the Republic of Liberia was very much in place. And I agree that President Weah is a person who doesn't usually respond to people, to respond to concerns raised by people. Whenever you hear President Weah speak to a given concern or respond to a given concern, then it means that concern is grave and it speaks volume to the fact that his his lapses have been exposed and he will come up to speak. So he felt because he's really thin-skinned and he felt exposed. So he responded in a way that felt below the belt because the concerns that Cummings raised are very genuine and germane. And any good leader, any serious-minded leader will take such statements coming from a major opposition, political leader very seriously. But instead of addressing those issues, we saw the president, jumping into what we call, argumentative harmony, and then he was just show. I mean, let me put it this way: bragging about elections, how he won elections, how he will win elections again, what he did as an athlete, and I think all of that was unnecessary because they fell very far from the concerns that were raised by Mr. Cummings.
Thank you. We just been joined by Robert Gagwad. This guy, he was around when Focus on Liberia started, so this is home for him. Robert, welcome. Without wasting time, the question we are on now is Cummings raised three issues. And Cummings knows President Weah. President Weah usually drags his feet, when issues of, serious national concerns, have unfolded in the country. But he chose to write President Weah anyway. Wasn't Cummings seeking attention here? Was it goal just to let President Weah know that these things were serious? President Weah knew anyway, right? So what was the goal here, if any, for which he had to pen this letter?
Well, I think that some might see it as desperation. Some might, describe it as Cummings seeking some sort of attention from the highest office. And some might politically looked at it as a strategy, right,
Mhm.
to gain traction. We are getting near to an election next year, and given the position Cummings is in right now, I think politically speaking, I mean, who does not want to be involved in some sort of back and forth with the executive mansion? I
Mhm.
think strategically speaking, it helps his campaign. I mean, and he's top three candidate right now is either him, Joseph Boakai, and the press and the incumbent. So from a political perspective, I think that it's not only is it healthy for political discourse, I think it helps Cummings in many ways than it hurts. Now, but when you start going back and forth, and you looked at the details of the letter, Anson, you've got to be very smart in some of the things that you address. You have to make sure, one, that some of what you are addressing it does not contradict what you are personally involved with, right?
Mhm.
Uh, some people have questioned why is it that Cummings didn't speak on the road funds, for instance. I think that's a valid question, right?
Mhm.
Does it hurt him politically to speak on the road funds as opposed to other issues that he might mention? And then some people might say, well, he's been very selective in his advocacy with regards to national issues. But yes, I think to some extent you can describe it however you want, but it is some sort of attention. This is not the first time Cummings has written a public or open letter to the president in which the office of the president have ignored. But I think when it came to the sanction and some of what was mentioned in there and the action that has been taken, I think that really hit close, and the executive mansion felt the need to directly respond to him.
Thank you. And Dualo, let me come to you. Cummings' point there was that look on the issue of the sanctions, Mr. President, you look at the gravity and the magnitude of these sanctions coming from quote unquote the world power, and all you can do is to suspend. And he's saying it does not commensurate with the gravity of the matter here. You can't be serious. But in Weah's counter, he said, "Hey, Cummings, you had issue here. You were granted due process. It's just a due process we are giving these people. So talk to me. Due process is not limited to the court, right? It applies in any administration. So if that is an argument one can make, is President, we are having a point here to say, hey, we are giving the guys due process. This is my administration. These guys being accused. So we're going to investigate and find out. Talk to me, Dwalo. When US have investigated, why can't a government of this kind come up with better than what the US have done? Is that the point here?
No, Mr. Cummings was 100% correct
Mhm.
in his suggestion to the president. In fact, I believe that the president was completely cavalier about the issues in the country. He was childish in his response. And I will tell you why. Mr. Cummings is not asking for due process for the three accused individuals. Due process, people think due process means you have to hold your government position. No, the president has total discretion as he pleases, whoever he hires or fires in his cabinet. These people, due process is going not just going to the court. You can look at due process in so many other ways, but
Mhm.
they don't have to be occupying the very position that they are being accused of from stealing from the Liberian people, benefiting from the amenities of those offices, and then still claiming we were given due process with these suspensions. We know with complete certainty that since what's his name, McGill left the office and the rest of the guys, they're still in possession of government property, government vehicles. They're still using, they still have the privileges to their offices. They're walking around with EPS officers. The reason why Mr. Cummings is calling for this, and I believe it's the right thing to do. Mr. Cummings was being an adult. He was being a professional and suggesting to a colleague, so listen, we have a country here. The image of this country is being destroyed, and I believe you should attach a higher degrees of seriousness to this matter because this is not a joking matter. President Weah, on the other hand, takes this as a job. But I will tell you this, the mere fact that Mr. Cummings, I mean, President Weah have responded to Mr. Cummings. Mr. Cummings already won this thing because, first of all, he's elevated him as a coming to a higher position. I just hope our people see this. because the intent of Mr. Cummings was not to downplay anything or not to deny anybody due process. It was to give them due process. If you read his letter, he's suggesting the first and second letter. Look, go do your due process. You can come back. If these people are clear of these charges, they can come back and say, listen, take your positions back. But we know with complete certainty the President Weah believes everybody should worship him. And Mr. Cummings is a higher person. He's not going to worship him. He's going to speak his mind. And I want to thank Mr. Cummings for this. And I believe this disco elevates Liberia to another level.
Let me bring you in, Franklin, who joining us on the phone. Let's look at the response that Mr. Cummings, or that you call that one a rebuttal to President Weah's response to him. And I mean, it presents an opportunity, as Rabbi was trying to say, back and forth. At this point, though, with Cummings' rebuttal, was that a best strategy? For me, I'm the guy who always like to, put my little opinion in there too. If I were in the Cummings room, now that I threw a bid and this guy jumped on it, then I will elevate it to where he will not step. I will say, President Weah, I'm inviting you to a debate on the issue.
Thank you.
I mean, let's go to the Morovia City Hall. Let's debate the issue. President Weah will not step there. Instead, Cummings send another letter. President Weah can call Samuel Twain and do another letter. I mean, let me bring you in, Franklin. What do you make of that? Is the rebuttal strategic, or could the issue, the idea of inviting Weah to a physical debate would have been a better, strategy at this point?
First of all, President Weah would not avail himself, for a debate with Cummings.
I agree.
That is something he would dread, and don't even imagine that it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
And Philippians will tell you the most they can do is to shield Weah, from any form of debate, anything that will have to that has the proclivity of exposing his quote unquote ineptitude. They're not going to allow that. So just forget about the issue of debate. And I think it was intentional of Cummings asking, let us have a debate. And but here is the thing. The second letter
but frankly, before you leave, because since you are agreeing that President Weah will not show up to a debate, then it will close this back and forth, and Cummings will come out as the winner. Case closed. He threw a bid. Weah fell for it. Now he raises the flag. It's too hard for President Weah. He can go. He's stuck. Cummings now can take that narrative. Why don't you think that would have become a better strategy?
No, so here is something that all of us, have got to be very honest about, right?
Right.
The first and foremost thing, let us ignore the exchanges between the two political leaders.
Okay.
Let us look at the genuineness of the concerns that Cummings raised.
I agree.
You, Anthony Cie, like any well-meaning Liberian, will share similar opinion. Why, if this president has reneged on taking stringent measures, especially when the issues border on corruption. But this is an assurance he gave the Liberian people on the day of inauguration, that one of the reasons why Liberia is lacking behind this much is because our leaders over the time have not been sincere, and they see public offices as a conduit to enrich themselves. Hence, he was taking a mantle of authority to ensure that there will be a robust fight against corruption. And the Liberian people took seriously to that. All right? So when Cummings raised the issue of you being lackadaisical in your reaction to the sanctions, or the destination by the United States government, has really stigmatized our country. It has made us to look like we're not, a group of people that are serious about really fighting corruption. When you just suspended people who the American government have actually got evidence on for corruption, that is not enough. And I agree with the brother who spoke before me. What the president would have done, because you see, all of the time we've been challenging this president to act. he has rejected over time. He won't act because it gives people the impression that he probably must be in a kind of a cahoots with the accused. You saw the issue of the 25-minute mock-up exercise, the way someone went about it and lied how he gave money to money exchangers and what have you. And up to now, 12 has not been made to account for that money. You saw that the LCC boss was allowed for some time because he told the president that, look, some of the officials, our honest, have really pointed to them to be very corrupt. And we need to, prosecute them. They all started threatening, and that man was allowed for some time. So I'm only trying to say this president has shown to the Liberian people, first of all, he has deceived the Liberian people. He said he will fight corruption. He has not
And
done
Franklin,
anything to show that he's fighting corruption.
Franklin,
So
I want you to close on this. I want you to close on this. President Weah, in his response to Mr. Cummings, listed steps that his administration, according to him, his administration has taken in the fight against corruption. Will you say those steps were not taken or were not bold enough? He has taken some steps, isn't it?
You don't need rocket science
to
know that the president is dishonest, he is deceptive, and if he will speak from the purity of conscience, you know that he's only just concerned about retaining the presidency, winning a second term. I mean, this every good term deserves another. You don't have to always, tie everything to election. What I was trying to say was that Cummings was calling your attention to act promptly and more seriously. How does that offend him? Right? Instead of taking that seriously, you are talking about how you want elections, how the Liberians will love you.
I don't know what you call offense. Cummings wrote a letter, all right, and President Weah decided to respond, and Cummings was paying attention to tune. No, I mean, these are two men, two political actors speaking, and Cummings says, well, why is your tune so loud? And how does that matter?
Yeah, that's great. Listen, 3 concerns were raised. Did the president address those concerns? No.
Well, in the president's opinion, he did. By listing on corruption, he said, I took these steps. Go ahead.
No, listen. The statement that former George made in the presence of the president,
right,
it's a statement that has the proclivity of plunging our country into serious chaos.
Okay, can I come in for a second? Can I interject?
So,
let him land there. Let your point there, Franklin, please.
What statement did the president issue to the effect? The reason why the president needed to issue a statement to the effect, Solomon George is not an ordinary person. He's not only a lawmaker, he is a steward of the CDC, the ruling establishment.
And so that begs the question. That is a solid point there, Franklin. I want to bring Robert in here quickly, and I want you to comment on this quickly too. Just as President Weah will not take action, rebuke Solomon George, call him out, the same way Cummings will not call out Yeke Koloba.
Exactly the point I was going to make. And
so how is Cummings the better guy here?
Thank you. But let me respond before the gentleman comes back in.
Okay.
And I think to his point though, I think he made a lot of salient point that I would concur with. But again, I think he's rumbling here, right? Because he wants us to believe that Cummings was effective in his address. I don't think he was that effective. Yeah, there were key things he addressed. But remember, I previously stated that when you are writing these letters, you've got to be careful to make sure that you are not making part of what you want the president to address to come back and hit you in the face. And this is the dishonesty and the hypocrisy that I think the president was very effective with in his response. Let me read this part. But the insincerity on your part, let me say for the record that Representative Solomon George and all opinion leaders in the Coalition for Democratic Change are fully cognizant of my publicly held position on the maintenance of the country's hard-earned peace and the rule of law. His recent statement was out of order. It was no surprise, therefore, that he wasted no time in setting the record straight about what he truly intended to convey. But the insincerity on your part becomes so palpable when you are up in arms, pandering to the public gallery because of his comments, when you would not garner the same courage to ring in an agitator of a lawmaker within your own ranks. And he was referencing Yeke Koluba. For God in heaven's sake, maybe Franklin can make some kind of justification to this, because I don't think Dwalu would, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely, I will, because I believe you're not making sense. But go ahead.
If he was serious about, and this is coming direct response to not only a partisan of the CDC, but a public official in his position as a lawmaker. Okay, his comment was completely out of order. His comment was completely ridiculous, something that I don't support. He should be condemned irrespective of his party. He should be condemned. And in this letter, the president did that. But has Cummings ever condemned the deportment of Yeke Koluba, who has on many occasions insulted women publicly, who has on many occasions denigrated the House of Representatives he himself represents? Has Cummings ever criticized or condemned any of his action?
Look,
Even
even Cummings' attempt, to the best of my recollection, hold on, Franklin, to the best of my recollection, when Cummings was pressed at the time they were in Grand Judah, you remember? When Cummings was pressed, he gave excuses. He said, well, Yeke Koluba is a different kind of person. He goes about his things, differently. Yes. Yep. I will not advise him to talk the way. That was a leader giving excuses.
Thank you.
All right. He thinks he was just responding to, I disagree with Yeke Koluba, but at the same time, he comes and says, well, that's his style.
Well, he could have just said, I condemned it. He could have said, you don't have to say all that. I condemned it.
No, he didn't condemn it.
He didn't. What I'm saying, he could have just said, I condemn his action.
Yes.
You can't be selective in what you think is wrong and right when it is right in your house, and then cautioning another man's to correct what is wrong in his house. That's hypocritical.
Thank you. And frankly, hold on, let's come to Dwalu here, because Dwalu has serious disagreement with Robert's point here. Dwalu, let's tell you, what's your disagreement?
I think it.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Robert mentioned President Weah publicly condemned some of these actions. You see, sometimes we have to take pictures in the whole sphere, in totality. What President Weah may come up publicly and say something, but what is his private actions? We do know with complete certainty that CDC hooligans are going around the country and dismantling, protests. These are actions that President Weah may be condemning publicly, but he's sending people in the background to go after Liberian citizens. And I will address something here. I can list a bunch of cases where CDCs are trying to go after people. Was it in the Talia Uric case? There's a bunch of cases across the country. Let's forget about those. I want to say this. You talk about Mr. Cummings not condemning Yeke Koluba. I will agree with you guys on that one. He should condemn it emphatically. But I also want to add this. Mr. Cummings has absolutely no control over Mr. Koluba, over Representative Yeke Koluba. He may condemn it. He doesn't have control. However, President Weah does have control over the people. He has their eating pains in his house. Yeke Koluba eating pain is not in Mr. Cummings' house. But I'm going to make this point. I would not condone the way Mr. Koluba acts, but I would say this. Okay, anybody here on this show, anybody who's listening, say this with a straight face, that the way Mr. Koluba is being treated as a sitting representative is not fair. Even when the courts rule in its favor, the government has refused to address his plight. Number one. Number two, Mr. Koluba's children, Liberian citizens, were maltreated at the airport in Monrovia. Nobody did nothing. People went to Koluba's house and shut up the place. The man is going crazy because the government puts him in that position. It is not a justification, but we also have to take that into context. Why is he behaving a certain way? We have to consider that as well.
Excellent, and that is where I want to come in. Thank you. Anthony.
Go ahead, Franklin.
Yes, I really don't want to lose track of my thoughts. Listen, I listened to Robert justifying why President Weah mustn't own up to leadership, and that is the problem.
No. I'm moderating it. He did not justify. He did not justify. But go ahead, make your point.
No, listen. When he said why Cummings can't, it is indirectly saying since Cummings cannot control Yeke Koluba, George Weah has got no control over his flock.
No.
That's what I'm coming from. So that's a justification. But let me just say this.
Go ahead.
We often concern ourselves with reactions. and not caring about what precipitated the reactions.
Thank you.
Yeka Koluba has been the way he has been because the government has been strangulating, marginalizing Yeka Koluba to the speaker, and this man has not been able to represent his constituency from the word go since he became a representative and defeated the CDC candidate in district number 10. From the word go, his family, threats have been meted against Yeka Koluba, physical, verbal. You sit there and pretend to not know what is happening to Yeka Koluba. Yeka's anger have always been expressed at the capital because every time he wants to raise a point, he is marginalized.
Franklin,
and the speaker uses his gavel. I'm coming. The speaker uses his gavel.
You'll be allowed, Franklin. I just want to inject this, all right? No one who understands what is responsible for Yeka Koluba's behavior, the way he's been treated, you understand, would disagree with you that he's being treated unfairly. No one would disagree with you on that. But may I ask you the question? If you were Yeka Koluba, will you behave the way he does because of the same treatment?
No, I personally have condemned Yeka's, outbursts and his utterances. Not that it is wrong to react the way he reacts. My thing has been the way he expresses his thoughts is not something worthy of emulation. We got people that look up to you as a lawmaker, people see you as a role model. Your utterances must kind of commensurate with your actions. So to some extent, I would say, look, he has really, really gone astray. But I am looking at not only what is making Yeka to behave the way he is behaving, I am looking at what prompted his reaction. Now look at
is that a justification? Because this is not to put anything in Cummings' favor here. The court case against Cummings, hold on, comrade. The court case against Cummings, politically speaking, was humiliating, right? And he could have expressed, outburst in an angry way, but he did not. He kept his peace all along, and he's writing letters. But Yeka Koluba goes insulting this man represent a district, for Christ's sake.
Great. So you have to look at, you can liken the two scenarios. You can liken Yeka's situation to that of Solomon George. Solomon George, as a representative, is asking the president if he could gain the approval of the president, he will resign as representative to be police director. So that opposition will disappear. That is even more threatening than Yeka, raining insults at the president. And I'm not asking you to look at it again. Before Yeka started, raining insults at the president first said denigrating things about Yeka Koluba. And that is why you see when Yeka is responding to the president, he always says Joshua, he calls him Joshua. But I'm not providing justification for that. It is wrong in every way. But let us be, kind of a real honest to ourselves. The direction our country is taking. We have a leader who is not only up to leadership. Cummings demonstrated leadership. When Alberto admitted to have released the book on George Weah, even though George Weah confided in him allegedly about things that Alberto wrote or put in the book, who was Alberto? He was chief of office staff. To Cummings released him as a source. Don't you know that? That is leadership. And every time Cummings speaks, he condemns violence and discourages his followers, people who want to see him be president, not to endorse in violence. But on the contrary, this leadership that is carrying the affairs of the state is in the business of instructing folks, people under the canopy of being CDC, COP. They admitted on radio that they were representing the interest of the government. They meted mayhem and atrocities on peaceful students that assembled right on the day of our independence when people should be celebrating freedom. What is this? This is not what the Liberian people, entrusted you with power.
Thank you, Franklin. Thank you, Franklin.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
President Weah continued to say the Liberian people love him. I think the Liberian people demonstrated the love by reciprocating his kindness, his goodwill when he was an athlete by giving him the presidency. It is about time that he owns up to that privilege and lead and start living in the a world of reasons. People corrupted, nothing happened. People stole money, nothing happened, because that's what the people have been saying around here. So under his administration, why are people compelling him to prosecute people, to do this, to do that? It is like you live in a world of reasons. That is not why the Liberian people entrusted you with power.
Thank you.
You have to own up to leadership.
Thank you. Robert?
Anthony, again, Mr. Franklin is making some good points, but I think he's definitely playing some sort of partisanship here, and it's not been effective. I don't think it's been effective.
I'm not a partisan.
You are a Cummings supporter, and you are making a pitch here that is very ineffective. Now, we're not talking about the president's inability to take leadership. We've all condemned that. What happened to that young man should not have happened. Every decent, civilized, well-meaning Liberian should condemn such a violent act. Every Liberian, irrespective of religion or ethnic background, should have the right to go out there and express himself without any sort of attack. That was wrong. I think he he directed feet in his response to that, in his condemnation to that. All of that is right, but Cummings is a precedent in waiting, right? You talk about what precipitated Yeka's action, but interestingly, Anthony, I'm not sure if you read the second letter in full. Cummings, and I'd say this is the weakest response to defining a man's character that I've ever seen done before. And Cummings is usually a very smart guy. He went in and he made mention of George Weah that very moment when he had butted Joel Acosta. And he basically justified that as President Weah being a violent person. Now, I don't think that was very smart. No one is infallible. We've all had bad days at the office. It may not have resulted into a headbutt, but we all have bad days at the office. For Cummings to have picked that incident without having any facts or knowledge to what precipitated George Weah's action, he was only looking at George Weah's reaction and bringing forth a judgment on his reputation of being a very violent person. Now, we all know that doesn't make sense. So for Franklin to sit on this platform, condemn the precedents, and then justify what precipitates Yeka's action is completely, it's the same double standard that we're talking about. The ANC folks and our Cummings supporter have got to get it right. Either something is wrong, one side, and it's wrong on the other side, or it's right or wrong. You can't look at something from both ways. If we were talking about, well, we shouldn't just focus on the reaction, but rather what precipitates the action, then Cummings clearly didn't get the picture in this case. It's critical.
May I jump in here?
What is Robert saying here?
Hold on, frankly, Robert. It's clear to me that you agree with the points raised in Cummings' original letter, right? An open letter to President Weah. But it's like you are a Paul, and you think the rebuttal to President Weah's response to his letter does not make sense, and that he's going to the gutter. He's even going treading on the dangerous path like Yeka Koluba will do. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Absolutely, and it's a double standard. It makes no sense.
So what are some of the things he raised in the letter that put him in that line as going down the belt?
I'll give you one clear example. Look, let me read this thing here for a second. He talks about George. This I think
he talks about Yeka Koluba supporting Model, supporting Laird, raising money. He talked about all that, right? Is that one?
But that was one part of it. But I didn't focus so much on that because it cannot be
substantiated.
It's completely unsubstantiated, right?
Because why you think so?
There is no record of that. other than yes. This is the reason why
So you think Cummings is just making up these
that's the reason why he
information?
said, that's the reason why he said, as reported.
Mhm.
As reported. I was looking at those languages and I said to myself, did Cummings really had to go? Did he didn't have to go there, because there is nothing in what he said that can be substantiated. There was nothing. Now we know for a fact that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf contributed to a certain amount to Charles Taylor. We know that for a fact. This is not hearsay. There has been absolutely no record, no facts whatsoever, other than what came from Charles Taylor when he said that George Weah had some sort of political ambition. That was it. But the fact that Cummings will go out of his way to make mention of that, to pin a picture of a violent person who supported a war, when in reality there has been absolutely nothing to show that George Weah were participating in any war other than trying to stop the war, disarm folks. These are facts we can prove. But beyond that,
and Robert, what's about this point? Hold on, Franklin. What's about this point? Cummings raised to in his rebuttal about President Weah being ambassador of peace in Liberia, had an office. What we hear all year was $500,000 allotted to that office.
Yep.
President Weah was a former senator. I mean, he's a former senator, right? Yep. And he was in the Ellen Johnson administration.
Yep.
And Cummings even said, "Hey, if you appoint somebody to be your board, as Cummings was on BWI, he was not being paid, right? So he's saying that this is Weah, who work in an administration that he will not even audit. Their administration had given him money."
Yep.
And now he's coming out and telling me, this whole gate of association thing, right? That is a strong point by Cummings in that second letter.
It's a very effective point. Those are facts. And this is what I'm talking about. For a Cummings caliber, this is what we expect him to go. He has got to be, politics is good. One of his supporters said to me, "You don't understand politics," because he was admitting to the fact that Cummings had to throw those things in there, even though he understands that those are not, it's not backed by facts. But what he stated about George Weah's office, what he stated about George Weah being a senator, and I think I mentioned this on the drive the other day, those are facts. And for George Weah to say, "Well, Cummings, you didn't speak up then, but you yourself work in this government. Matter of fact, from a more stronger place. You got paid for doing what you did." I think those are most stronger points. But why is Cummings going out of his way to basically put things in a letter that he has absolutely no proof of? It makes no sense.
All right.
No,
Franklin, hold on. It's Dwalo's time. Let come to you, Ansu.
Thank you so much. And you and Rob went on the diatribe there for a second. I hope you gave me the same number of times. Because I thought we're sticking to the 2 minutes as well. I want to say this. Robert mentioned a lot of things. And the first thing I'm going to stress is about mentioning AC Milan game where President Weah took that guy. This is a gladiatorial sport. I understand it, President Weah. People get mad in the ring, but I don't want you to shake your head just yet. If you read Mr. Cummings' second letter, what he's doing is he's building the case. He didn't just mention one instance because President Weah claims he's not a violent person. If you go with the details of the letter, and Robert, I'm so glad my brother read the second letter as well. Mr. Cummings laid the premise. He said, "Listen, you're not a violent person, but you cannot control your anger. You're choking people in the ring. One case, I'll let it go. But there are a combination of cases. Besides that, there are reports. Now, let's underline the word report. If you say Mr. Cummings was the first person that said this, that's not true. There are several people that mentioned that President Weah was in bed with Willard. And they did say, if President Weah believes this is not true, let me take him to court. They're going to prove it. Yet it's mentioned, other people have mentioned it, that President Weah had interaction. Now, see, these things can come back and say, well, President Weah was trying to disarm people, so you have to go and see every single faction. They can make the argument. Whether it's valid or not, we're going to come to that point. But I want to stress this very important point. Mr. Cummings was serving the Republic of Liberia pro bono. Jetty was on the board. Firestone was on that board. The allocations being made to BWI is less than $100,000. President Weah literally stole $500,000 from the Liberian people. This is not something speculation. This is fact. He was getting $500,000. He did absolutely nothing, and he literally ate the entire money. Nobody can account for this money. Point number two, he served as senator, I believe, close to 4 years. This man took money from the Liberian people for 4 years and did almost absolutely nothing. While at the same time, he was lying to the American government that he was making less than $2,000 a senator who barely paid $200 in child support. In fact, there was a report because his financial issues came up. President Weah was flat broke. So he saw the opportunity in government to come back and steal from the Liberian people. Look, Mr. Cummings did something that we need desperately in the country. History will judge this man right. That he brought up a conversation that forced President Weah, this kleptocrat, to speak to his people. And I hope he can hire another full-time speechwriter to be responding to these things. But I hope he takes on Mr. Cummings on his offer to have a public debate. Mr. President, you need to come back to your people and stand and have a public debate. If you don't want to debate, stand for 2-3 hours and take questions from the press. And let's see if you're actually living up to those standards that you claim you have. We all know what you're doing, Mr. President. You're burdening this country and you need to go yesterday.
So, may I come in, Anthony?
No, I have to push Dualo here. You know, those things that Cummings raised, those things were raised against President Weah, right? In this going election. It did not cost him votes, I want to believe. They issued that old President Weah were on the football fee and he fought, and Cummings is bringing, and the whole thing about Modet and Lur, President Weah contributed. Why, if those things are fact-checked and proven to be lies, don't you think Mr. Cummings will be putting himself in a difficult place here that he has to come and apologize and clean it up?
I can point to thousands of things that President Weah said that are lies. President Weah said he made $85 million. Listen, so I'm going to get to Cummings. President Weah said he made $85 million. If you go to the records in Europe, all the game that President Weah played for, all the teams, all the money he made did not go over $25 million. Everything. This is fact check. When President Weah was playing soccer, people didn't get paid a lot of money. In Europe, they take about 50% of that in taxes. Just to put it into perspective for you. So he was nowhere near $85 million. That was a total lie. President Weah lied about so many things. President Weah said he went to school and got a master's degree. There are reports, there are evidence. People have come to and testified to this, that President Weah did not sit in any class when people did his homework for him. It's a bunch of lies. President Weah came into Liberia and claimed he had all this money, he was building this farm. There's so many lies. Mr. Cummings has not said anything that was not said before. This is not in defense of Mr. Cummings, but there are reports, countless reports, that President Weah supported Lur. Let President Weah come back and say, listen, I didn't buy the fishing boat. This is where I was in this time. Let him be scrutinized. Look, we are giving the country, you see, well, last time President Weah came and we voted for 2017, it's not the same as 2023. You have to understand, he has something to show for it now. There was a fanfare there.
So what I'm hearing from you here is anything can sell in politics. So Cummings got to just throw everything at the wall.
Not anything can sell. Anything with validity can sell. Because what Mr. Cummings is doing, he's forcing President Weah to come and speak with facts.
Okay.
Point to something that President Weah, Honorable Cummings said that is not factual, with substantiation. Point to that. I don't know one thing that he said that is not factual.
Say that again.
Point to one thing that Honorable Cummings said in his letter that is not factual.
It's not factual that George Weah was a part of Model. It's not factual that he was part of Lur. It's not
okay. So you
wait. It's not, and I challenge you or anyone else or even comments right now to substantiate that comment. It's a complete lie. That stuff came from George or Charles Taylor. When Charles Taylor felt threatened, when George Weah was publicly condemning what was happening, and matter of fact, when he publicly called on Charles Taylor to leave the country in the interest of
says George Weah want to become president.
Well, he said George Weah supported the attack by Lur and Model into Liberia to unseat a democratically elected president. He made these comments very clear at SKD. It came from a dictator, Charles Taylor, who was afraid of his life. And you had a guy at the time who every Liberian saw as a peaceful man, who every Liberian had glorified. No one knew he had any political ambition or anything of that sort. Everyone thought that he was right. So the same comments he was making about Charles Taylor, every other Liberian were calling on him to leave. So all of these
Robert, let me hold Robert. Yeah. Robert, I mean, your eloquence is profound. I mean, you speak with authority on this issue as though you were there, Robert. I think you are You are treading a dangerous path here. The manner in which you come with your eloquence and authority on this issue, as though you were there, as though these things have been verified and proven to be lies. And that's the way you speak. I think, Rabbi, it's the same thing you are accusing Cummings that you are doing right here.
No, but here's the thing. The onus is on them to prove what they say. Look, if I came up and I said,
so if they can't prove it, that makes it to be true.
But here's the deal. If you cannot make a judgment on someone's repetition on assumption or incident. That's where I'm coming from. If you can't, these are all Romans. These were all politically influenced Romans. What I'm saying,
my question is, my question is, it may well be, but how does Robert Gagwa know? Has he verified these things? Because here's the thing: you heard from others by saying these things are not true. And you have made a decision to believe those who say those things didn't happen. And you have also made a decision to disbelieve those who said it happened. This is a slippery slope.
I have made those decisions to not believe the lies because again, there have been no record. There have been no record. There have been no substantial.
You're talking about time and Robert going.
Number one, number two. Anthony, have there been anyone from Laura Model? These folks are still around. Everybody is still around. Have there been anyone to substantiate? Yes, we receive funds from George Weah as a direct support for our.
Yeke is the only one. I heard others in Model who were there have confirmed it. I don't know of anyone. I heard. But Yeke Koluba said he was there and he said he has seen George Weah. You have decided to not believe him, and that's okay. That's your right to not believe him.
You won't even admit that he fought.
You have also made
his sponsor. He financed.
I'm talking about where did he see George Weah? Was he on the bottom?
President Weah, or Charles Taylor has accused President Weah. You didn't believe Charles Taylor. Yeke has accused him. You didn't believe him. There might be others. So how many persons will you have to hear from before you? I'm not saying you should believe it.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Here's what I'm saying. We need to have information, facts, not just hearsay.
So let us wait for the facts before you say that didn't happen.
That's what I just said. What I'm saying is, if you're not going to substantiate with some facts, then don't say it. Remember, all the folks that
let me distribute the time.
Political enemies of George Weah. Of course, they want to pin him to be a violent person.
Thank you. Franklin, let us hear you. I'm being a little unfair to Dwaluya, but let us hear you. Go ahead.
Look, I can understand that we need to send Rob a left line. He's drowning in a real pool of deception. And let me just say this to Robert.
Right.
And everybody who is so upset with a Weah's presidency, even though the ineptitude of this government is inexplicable. Ask Robert, why is it this same president who in 1994 disarmed Chad soldiers vowed that those who place arms in the hands of these children must be made to account for it, is reneging on giving his endorsement for the establishment of war in economic grounds court? Why is it the same president who claims to be peaceful and who denounce any form of violence will be in bed with people who are noted for violence and crimes against humanity? If you look at his government, it is infested with people who have grossly violated human rights. And very soon, you shall be hearing the names of some people in the same government who have grossly violated human rights and will be sanctioned. But here it is, Robert would have still said that the likes of Serena Cephas, Electoral, and Nathaniel Maggie are not corrupt. If only this cry or this public outcry of corruption was coming from only Liberians, it does not move him to know that our longest standing partner and biggest donor, whose credibility must not be overlooked, will single out 3 prominent officials of this government and designate them for acts of corruption. And Robert will not even use this time to condemn those people and challenge the president to prosecute them. He's contended with the fact that the president has suspended it. As my brother said, these guys, the suspension is just a bluff, it's a puppet suspension. The guys are still leading their positions, except that they are not physically being seen in their offices. They are still with government properties. They are running their offices from their various homes. This is sheer deception, and that's why investors continue to shy away from our country, because the saying goes, good money is afraid of bad environment. This government is not serious, and the president must be serious to lead. Why is it Robert cannot tell us what was wrong with the concerns that Cummings raised with the president? Those three concerns. They didn't warrant the president coming to say how Cummings got 30% in election, how he won the country 14 out of 15 counties, how the Liberian people, if even they were to go to election today, were re-elected. Was all of that called for? How did that address the concerns that were raised? And that is what I expect my brother, irrespective of his support for President Weah, to be present too. There will be a post-Weah Liberia. Will you be able to stand up and chest beat and defend these people that you are defending? You are claiming that there is no proof of law, President Weah identifying with law or whatever. Probably, if we had had the War and Economic Crimes Court, we probably would be seeing some facts coming up.
Thank you, Franklin.
The reason why you will not have any proof of people who have been accused for war crimes and whatever is because your government has vehemently vowed not to have a situation that will bring these people to account. So this is like President Weah coming to say, oh, he inherited a broke economy. I'm just coming somewhere. And
yeah, you have to conclude that, Franklin.
After a few days to say, look, this is the mess you people created, and that's what we're trying to fix. But this is the same president who said, Madam Salif's government, if it were to be rated from the scale of 1 to 10, he will rate it 8.
Thank you.
Look, let me just clarify something.
No, it's Eduardo's time, please.
Eduardo, can I just clarify something that man just said? Can you give me 1 second, please?
But man, if I give you 1 second, you go long. Take
no,
5 seconds.
I won't go long. I just want to be clear. Maybe Franklin don't know me. I'm not a citizen. I don't support the government. I'm very objective. And by the way, I have condemned. I have 1 second, sir.
One at a time, Franklin.
1 second, please, sir. Don't interrupt.
Franklin.
I have condemned with
Franklin, one at a time, please.
I have condemned. And by the way, my brother Franklin, hold on for a second, my brother. Hold on for a second. My brother Eduardo can attest to it. I have condemned, categorically condemned, and called for the dismissal of Miguel. I have condemned and called for the dismissal of the Solicitor General. I have condemned, and by the way, they are criminals. By the way, he made an idiotic justification of broad day robbery. Okay, I've done all of those things. I'm not a sedition. What I'm pointing out is a hypocrisy and double standard that comes from Cummings and the ANC and some of the ANC folks like yourself. That's what I'm pointing out. Thank you.
You're on mute.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say this. Look, I am not suggesting that President Weah did this himself personally. But when you are in charge of the country and certain things are happening within your vicinity, you may not be a violent man, but there's a lot of continuous things that can happen that point to that. A man in your security detail goes with you to Nima County, and your security detail claim he shot himself 3 times in the head. That order has to come from the top. It's this man that's been protecting you. The president is not violent. We saw auditors in the country that were investigating crimes, financial crimes in the country. They literally were murdered. Okay, they didn't just die back to back. All the 4 auditors did not just die back to back by coincidence. Something happened. That order comes from the top. Somebody's giving these orders and being approved. Let me tell you something. When you have a Liberian citizen, a mother and her children, they literally left their home country. because of violence they're seeking out on them. They're promising them money. The woman has spoken. There are recordings that her husband was literally being murdered by instruction from higher up. If you are in charge and this is happening underneath you, you cannot claim that you are not violent. You have to know something about it. Look, we have a country here, and we have to understand. And I see a lot of seditions whenever somebody comes online and say, "Oh, when you come to Liberia," if you start targeting Liberians from America or from Australia to come into Liberia, you target and you're playing a whole nother ball game. I don't think President Weah will be silly enough to start going that route. I want you guys to understand something. We have to talk about our country. If you are not developed enough to withstand what we are saying about our country, when nobody's talking about bringing guns or harming anybody, then avoid that conversation. If your minds are not developed enough to withstand them, but we have to talk about these issues. Look, President Weah, nobody rises to the level of the presidency in their home country if they don't get their hands dirty in some fashion. Okay, this is how society works. Now, you can claim there is no evidence. Look, our society is structured in a way where when you are corrupt, when you are a murderer, there will be no evidence, Robert. Anybody in the country, there's a saying in Liberia, they say, "Oh, came into court." That's another way of saying nothing will become of it. Nobody allows you to gather evidence against them in Liberia. Do you think President Weah will allow anybody to gather evidence? Do you know why he refuses for these government officials to go to the court? Because there is evidence. And the evidence is not coming from the Liberian government. So it cannot disappear. The same thing Serena Silva did against Mr. Cummings by hiding evidence to find the man guilty. This is the same thing that's happening. We're not running the government. We're running a kleptocracy.
Thank you. And fine point you made there, Dualo. No, if you look at the amount of things that are happening in our country, when you should see serious investigation coming to logical conclusion, some of which President Weah was so callous to say, well, boyfriend and girlfriend had to do, something to do with it. I mean, look at the issue of the 3 missing boys. Up to now, those boys are missing. St. Moses is a free man. You talk about the EPS guy, and the list, so many deaths. And these things are treated as though they are normal. All right. So we can go down the list. So the issues that Mr. Cummings raised were very serious. We all agreed on that. And then President Weah, instead of responding to the issue of, the Senate making a decision to replace all the election magistrate, Solomon George, and also the issue of the sanction, he started making false with Cummings for raising these issues that he should have dealt with long time ago. But let me bring this to you guys now. Let's look at it on the other side. Cummings' whole argument here is there are serious issues here, Mr. President, and the actions that should be coming from you concerning these serious issues must be commensurate with the gravity of these issues. And I'm all with him on that. Now let's flip it on the other side. The U.S. Embassy, the greatest war power on earth, has gone undiplomatic because it's just fed up with this government being reckless and meaningless to our people. The U.S. government had a press conference calling on Liberians and all political actors to seize the moment and take action. That is the greatest gift of all to any political leader in the country, especially those in the opposition. Is Cummings' letter to President Weah commensurate with the serious press conference? And the political gift, the diplomats have gone undiplomatic. Cummings remains diplomatic. Is Cummings' action commensurate with these issues raised by the U.S. Embassy? Does Waka have any action that we can say yes is commensurate with that press conference? So let's talk about that, because this kind of thing will call for a serious protest. People don't let me to say that. I will call for a serious protest, Dwalu, that until Magé is dismissed, even if I'll be the only one, I'm not leaving. Look, when the issues were serious here in America, Dwalu, you know the history better than I do. Martin Luther King, a man of God, a Baptist preacher, was protesting When the issue got serious in India, Gandhi saw his people. He was protesting. When the issue got serious here in Minneapolis, people in Minneapolis, Minnesota started protesting for George Floyd. In fact, the whole world saw that and protested. Is Cummings too good? That which I saw with the U.S. ambassador was the greatest undiplomatic protest from a diplomatic enclave ever. What Cummings does, what Gonglo does, what Waka does, empty statement from them. And the Liberian people are just there. So let us talk about that too. Look, I have to be serious here. And let me start with you, Rabo. I think you are with me on this one.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I think a lot of times people confuse this whole point of, look, everyone wants to beat on a person, but you have to remember that the opposition is literally the government in waiting, right?
Right.
And the last time I think I mentioned the fact that I don't think that they were too swift in responding to the sanctions. I agree 100%. And I think in one of my posts right after the sanction and the action that were taken by the government, I asked, where is the opposition? In fact, do we have an opposition? I will go a step further, Anthony. You know where I would have started this protest? I would have started this protest the day after the video of Miguel surfaced of him making an idiotic justification for why he was doing what he was doing. When you steal government money and build homes in your country, you're still a thief. When you use what is in and you build markets and you build things for personal gain, it makes no difference if another person spends that money in the United States or in Europe. You shouldn't be using public funds for personal gain. I would have started a very large protest, and that would have followed by the sanction. And imagine what would have happened. Imagine if Cummings, Waka, or anyone within the opposition would have taken the initial step. No one knew what the United States government was doing. No one knew how they would have responded to that tip. And I think that tip, that admission, in many ways, amplified the sanction. I think it was coming, but it took it expedited this whole sanction that was coming up. But what have the opposition really done? They've done nothing. They've done nothing. Which bothers me a lot, because when you have an opposition that is a government waiting, you look forward to serious decisions being made, not only serious decisions, but serious actions when matters of national concerns are raised and these sorts of things happen. So I agree with you 100%. 100% I agree. People are afraid to act.
And what causes that fear?
Dualo, may I reinforce that for you? So while Cummings and Buaka and Gonglo are sleeping, writing meaningless statements, all over the place, students at the university are protesting. These are students. When government should change hands tomorrow, would not be the one calling the shots. These boys will probably not get anything. But they are the one risking their life to the point that one of them got brutalized on the instruction of this government. And yet, Cummings' action was not incommensurate with the brutality meted against that young student. Nino is Buaka, Nino is Gonglo, and they are writing letters. How many Liberians can read their letters? I don't understand. That's for you.
Look, Anthony, I will say this, and I will agree with Robert on this one. This is culture in Liberia where certain people believe when they reach certain stature, certain things are above them. In most countries around the world, the political leaders spearhead the change that our country needs. These guys want to sit in the ivory towers and wait until the presidency is handed to them or until government job is handed to them before they can say, oh, I have done something. And I agree. Look, the change that we seek in Liberia will not be handed to you, especially for this bunch of neophytes that occupy the presidency and then the legislature and all the other places. The issue has to be forced. But they're not even pushing the issue. The opposition political parties are sitting there, they're not doing their job. What they don't want to say, their major job is to agitate. Reading letter, we have a society. Look, let me tell you something. Most of our people don't even see social media. This is one thing that President Weah knows he can capitalize on. We in the West, we talk. Most of our people still looking for food to eat. And I was reading through the thread. I heard a guy say, "Oh, you're talking about Liberia. What you're doing in Liberia?" You see, this is the kind of mindset I'm telling you about. A mindset has not developed beyond the typical. Do I collect government taxes to be going building bridges and roads? In fact, what I'm doing right now is a contribution to the country. I know you don't think about it that way, but in time, as your brain grows a little bit more, you will understand that we are contributing some faction. Where do you expect her to get money from to build roads, schools, and bridges? This is why every single revenue in the country is handed over to the government. But the government to utilize that revenue for the elevation of the people. They are not doing that, but nobody should talk about it. No, but it's another thing you say, Anthony, and it's true. Look, fear has gripped the country. But let's ask our question. Who brought that fear into the country? The government have put serious fear in the country. I was listening to Al Jazeera today, and Al Jazeera decided to go to most of the government officials' offices. They all refused. This is what the journalist said, and I'm paraphrasing. He said, fear has gripped Liberia to the point where government officials themselves are refusing and so afraid to speak to them because there must be repercussions from the administration. There is fear throughout the country. They themselves know what's going on, but they will say nothing.
Hello, thank you so very much. And we can say it on both sides. The issues are serious, and both sides, the leaders on both sides, are not taking action.
I agree.
That commensurate with the seriousness of the issue. All right, and we can say that Cummings' action does not commensurate with the issue. Mbwaka the same. And also Tiawangonglo. These guys, their individual, actions actually not, and it's just sad. And they think they're just gonna win the presidency with this. Look, the CDC that had nothing, at least agitated. They were just in Monrovia. They were never in all the counties. Those guys were just in Monrovia. And somehow Ellen Johnson Sirleaf felt that those boys were troublesome enough for her to give them power, even though she has some Sonesta mostly, right? But she felt that they agitated enough, and she gave them her blessing, and they are president. Or President Weah is president today, or the CDC won. And these people calling themselves better leaders, better representatives of our country, and they sit there, and the boys just pushing them around. Look at the kind of serious issues that are coming. We are a few months away from election. I think they're asking for $91 million budget. The government has only given us $6 million. No plan in play whatsoever. Up to now,
the magistrates,
nothing. And these leaders are sitting. We'll talk about the voter roll. Nothing has been done. The political leaders in Liberia, none of them can show me the voter roll. They don't have a copy. None of them.
Nope.
Come on. Anyway, we'll take a short break. Yeah, make your point there, and we'll take a short break.
It's a recipe for chaos, and you're right. You're absolutely right. Even the magistrate issues. Look, right. These political leaders saying that voter roll, the greatest risk we pose in most third world countries is election matters, and they don't understand what that risk is. They're sitting and expect them to just magically form. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. We just saw the example in Lofa County, Mr. Bwaka's own county. I can say for a fact, based on privileged information that I received, and even the National Election Commission own data that we analyze here.
Correct.
I can say that they cheated. I know many others are prepared to say that. I can say, based on the records that I have in my possession as a media institution that we have verified, cross-checked, and people who we talk to, who confided in us, they cheated.
They cheated, yes.
They cheated, and I can say that any day.
But the evidence was on the national website, and they reported it down.
Unity Party, where a big mouth got cheated by the CDC in Lofa County. Bwaka can't do a damn thing, and now CDC has a senator. Elections are not rigged on election day. These leaders, I don't know, they don't have it. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll bring in callers. They are waiting to be part of the discussion. I'm fired up today. Robert, I think you can see I'm fired up. So we'll take a short break, and we will be right back. All right, folks, we are back with you. We want to say thanks for staying with us. Yes, this is the Hour of Politics with me, Anson CA. I have with me a dear friend, Amsu Dualo, and also a dear friend, Robert Gadwa. Franklin has been on the line. I think he still is. We will go to the phone lines here quickly and hear from those who want to contribute. Those are control. Can you help us there and bring in our callers, please?
I hope my brother John Kovac calls. I would appreciate you, brother. Make sure you call his show. You've been asking me a lot of questions.
And I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, let us hear you, please.
Thank you. You guys are firing up tonight, and the program is interesting. You know, it is interesting in the way that the topic is great. And like I said previously to Rob, Mr. Lobo, and Salu, your voices are being heard. And I don't want to call any podcast name or those number where you buy viewers. It's not something that we can call a show off, but we know that you buy viewers. But when you can retain your viewers, you have your constant viewers, and we look at the numbers, and the people that watch your podcast after, we know you got a good platform. But I have a couple of issues, and I like how you guys talk about the oppositions, and it is true, the opposition need to step up again. But there's one thing I observed, and I listened to Brother Dwalu saying that fear is in the land. Fear is in the land. And the fear that is in the land is that the opposition are not willing to die to go into power, because the government is capable to destroy anyone that stands in their way. They don't care. But one thing about them is that they're unable to destroy evidence of what they have committed. And I'm listening to Brother Robert speaking on Mr. Cummings. And Brother Robert have been avoiding to speak on Cummings, but it's like something has triggered him up and he's letting it go. And that's
why is everybody always accusing you of something?
When it comes down to, that's why I spoke today on the class reload. Let us not be a group of people who just discuss the issues.
Thank you.
Today,
Mm-hmm.
We got more callers.
Thank you. We got more callers. Still on your point there.
Yes. Please give me 2 minutes, please. And it is swept under the carpet. I think the opposition need to come up. What will happen? Let it happen.
That's a more. Thank you.
Time that this government be out is about time, because if you look at all of the killing and you listening.
That's a more. Thank you. We have a lot of callers.
Say again?
I said thank you. We have a lot of callers. We want to distribute the time fairly, please.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. We appreciate you. Who is the next caller there? Let us hear you, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Anthony, and thanks to you guys in here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I would just want to discuss the letter issue due to the time factor, so we cannot go through everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be specific on the George Weah portion of the letter.
Mm-hmm. There
were too many lies. And I don't know why he keeps going with this lie, and I'm sure these lies are going to catch on someday. They don't know who was a star back then. George Weah was a star. So everywhere they went, there were media. If for heaven's sake, George Weah had taken any assistance to any refugee camp, they would have been videos all over YouTube. Just like this disarmament process. I can go online right now. I Google George Weah disarmament process. I will see pictures, tons of pictures, right? But there's one George Weah getting assistance to one refugee camp. We can't see them. Every time you pull up posts, the media will go out there and ask questions how many persons even got assistance on George Weah camp. We can't see the people. So were you giving the existence of ghosts? Were they not in existence? Or what? And he lied again about supporting national theory. That was a lie. Every nickel or dime just upon we are on loan side, he was really involved with interest.
Thank you.
Then he proved us wrong and tell the Liberian government owing that he spent on loan side and he did not get his money back.
Mr. Bob. Kesali.
Diadora contract, it went, yes, sir.
Because you did not see, or there's no video or any news, anything that you have seen about we are helping somebody in refugee camp, because you have not seen it, to reach a conclusion that did not happen, I don't know. Is that how you come to conclusion?
No, that's not also it. That is not also it.
Okay.
I have friends. I know people who live. I know tons of people who live in Ghana.
And there are people too. There are people too who said. There are people too who said he did. We visited them.
Then you come in with a question, right? It is true you went there. Except about Ghana, his mom was in Ghana. He used to pay visits in Ghana. Why George we are the most understand what I need to party with these guys. Some of the after party to go to the nightclub. Then when you offer them.
Thank you.
You call that assistance because you want to knock and bought drink or pull a drink, you call that assistance? No.
Thank you.
It's not really assistance to anybody. And you are a media institution. I want you to do this investigation and come on the fight and then prove me wrong.
All right. And before you go, Kesali,
on this platform, I will apologize to you.
Before you go, Kesali, before you go, Kesali, the code in these letters that we're talking about is the fact that Cummings is raising an argument. Hey, a serious issue. President Weah is out on not taking action. And when he tries to take action, the action he's taking, that action does not commensurate with the gravity of the issue. All right. So if we look at the issues as well, the opposition, the action that they are taking, will you say the action coming from the opposition commensurate with the gravity of the issues that we have in our country?
I am a member of the opposition, especially the Unity Party. I am one person who has said repeatedly that we are not doing enough.
Okay.
We are taking on the same.
Thank you.
We are taking on the same. We are not doing enough to rescue the Liberian people. Just taking on the same and speaking, not doing anything. I mean, it is not going to help. We have to push this government to the wall. We have to be on there. We have to be on their back every day until we get this evil out of our back, or else Liberia will experience another 6-year nightmare.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Daba. We appreciate your call. Let's go to the next caller here. That will be Aliu Kamara. He is a Bwaka boy. Mr. Aliu Kamara, my dear friend, the guy who refused to be my co-host. Welcome.
No, it's very unfortunate with all the opportunities that Focus on Liberia has given me to get some spotlight like Dwalu. But I'm in this great country and my internet isn't even good. What a shame. You know, but hey, let me say thank you to Focus on Africa, Dennis Job for your advocacy. Your style of journalism is just not the traditional form of journalism. You're also an advocate, and I want to thank you for that. Kesali Dowa clearly doesn't know the person in George Weah, where he says that George Weah letters were all lies. That's dishonesty. I suppose Joseph Yuma Bwaka, and this is the reason why I admire Joseph Yuma Bwaka, he just does not come up to talk unless he has the fact. I remember the last thing he said was, the same job that a papa does, or what we call pow pow, the pumpkin does it too. The difference is the pumpkin does it underground and the papa does it in the air. And everybody sees the papa, but the pumpkin also functions. And that thing had me laughing. Never defined that. He just said one line and he was done with the whole conversation. You know, look, when somebody says George Weah lied in that letter, they don't know George Weah. I have a relative, and Dennis might know her. I don't know what he does. Because for some reason, he knows everybody. I don't know my family. I don't know how he managed. And she and George Weah were very close, and I can't go into detail. But she lived in Abidjan in the refugee camp. So when somebody says George Weah will not go into the refugee camps, they don't understand. We have personal information about these things. It's not about how much bags or rice George Weah took to the refugee camp. George Weah mingled, he associated, he stood with the boy who was drawing water for the Madingo people in Abidjan to eat. He stood with him and took pictures. Those are more than just giving somebody money. So let's get it done with them. Let it get this, not just the symbol of it, but the significance of a star, one of the greatest men in the world at the time, will stand with anyone and take pictures with you and play football in your community. Football, to me, is bigger than what Alexander Cummings can ever do. Let's establish as a producer Buckeye. Producer Buckeye will not condemn George Weah's contribution to Liberia. Let us be frank. In as much,
and Alio, the question I'm asking you, Alio, the question I'm asking you is, given the seriousness and the gravity of the issues, the direction of our country, is Mr. Bwaka doing enough? Are his actions, I mean, does any action from Mr. Bwaka commensurate with the seriousness of the issue we have in our hand?
Look, I don't like to go with the way.
Because you are celebrating a man parable. A man parable. And that's why you get to celebrate.
Parables are not there when it comes from people with substantive wisdom. But let me just tell you this. Let me just tell you this. Joseph Butler have always said that Liberia is a talking society. He's not one of those. We all discuss the problem.
So the guy is now a talking guy and he wants to lead a country that is talking people?
Hold on. We focus on the problem so much so that we ignore the solution.
All right. I'm not here. I'm going to get anything from this Bwaka guy. Let me take leave of him. Thanks for your call. We appreciate you.
But you're not letting me finish my statement. Let me finish my statement first, okay? When you focus, and this is a psychological thing, when you focus only on the problem expands. Joseph Butler believes that you need to focus on the solution. By coming up all the
what is the solution? What solution they need? Anyway,
the pumpkin does on the ground. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Alio. There, thanks. I appreciate you, Alio. The next caller here is
Joseph Besa. Go ahead.
All right.
Yes. Good afternoon. Good evening, guys. I just wanted to make one or two observations.
Please.
One of them is, I hear you guys keep calling for protests. But the question is, how many protests have this administration responded to? I see it a little differently by this time. When I saw that Mr. Cummings wrote a letter, and for maybe the first time, we got a reaction from President George Weah. And as much as I thought by his letter was not in place, at least he addressed by the issues, which was the magistrate issues, where he said he does not support it. We don't get those reactions from our president. This is maybe one of the first time. So I think we should give Mr. Cummings credit, for getting a reaction from the president. If you ask me, maybe that would be a stroke of genius, if you ask me. But I think the issue here is how can Cummings, Buckeye, and the rest of these guys sustain the pressure? Because we know that there is pressure now. It's a matter of how they can sustain the pressure.
And the way they know best,
the way they know best,
Joseph,
who insists because he has not seen proof of something means that it did not happen.
And Joseph, are you paying attention, Joseph?
You don't take position on things that you don't know. You can require Cummings to provide proof, but to categorically come out and say it did not happen, I think you are setting yourself up. That's what I got this evening.
Thank you. We'll take the next caller.
Darling?
Yeah. How you doing, folks? How you doing? Thank you for having me. I just wanted to make a quick point.
Mm-hmm.
With reference to George, we are not being violent and stuff like that. Mr. Weah has consistently mentioned in every major speech that he ever gave, whether at the United Nations or at the State of the Nation address, that he doesn't have, that his government doesn't have a single political prisoner. And I say that the reason why his government doesn't have a political prisoner is because he killed them all. That's what I have to.
That is a serious chat. I mean, how can you? What's the proof? Naming just one person his government has killed.
Say that again.
Naming just one person, one political or somebody who should have been a political prisoner, but got killed, for which he does not have a political prisoner, according to you, because you said he killed them, or that's why he doesn't have one.
Yeah, Nathaniel Innis.
What's the name again?
Not Innis, the guy from the central bank.
Nathaniel Innis. Yes, you said
So
Nathaniel.
Matthew Innes will have become a political prisoner. Is that why you're saying? Because this guy was a banker, right?
Yeah, he was a banker, but you can have a banker who works in your government, and you can charge him for anything and place him behind bars. But instead of charging the person and throwing them behind bars, you just kill them.
All right. Well, that is a serious charge there. I will leave it there. Let's go to the next caller there. Back room. What do we have next? Caller with phone number ending in 6060. Let us hear you, please.
Well, Anthony, this is Darlington Collins. Sorry, I couldn't make the show.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead.
Around the But let me say thank you to Brother Dwalu and Rob. A few things quickly, right? You see, I get troubled every time. We need to draw a line of dichotomy. There's two different George Weah, and arguably, if I want to argue Ambassador Weah's contribution and sacrifice to the Republic of Liberia, that person probably have not followed our history. In 1995, George Weah rose to the symbol of hope for an ordinary Liberian child when he won the FIFA World Best Player of the Year. It is not how you start things, it is obviously how you finish. This man's lifestyle is more of a tragedy. He comes to political leadership where he sees public office as if the Liberian people owe him. He feels entitled. He comes with a sense of entitlement. So that is why he always will reference that he funded the Lone Star for his own personal pocket. There are reports from the FA that he will reimburse on most of the funds. But yes, Mr. Weah's contribution to the motherland, especially in the area of sport, cannot be questioned. So there are people who are equal vying for public office. Mr. Brecker has been involved. He has been contributing to his country. Councilor Tion Bungalow over the years. If you like, in our country, it is only like a man who is a human rights lawyer, and people call you a poor man lawyer. But human rights issues is a very critical issue. Councilor Bungalow, all his life in his legal practice, has spent his lifetime defending ordinary activists and advocates. Yes, I think Mr. Weah should be man enough to muster the courage and answer the letter of Mr. Alexander Cummings. If you argue that you want to go into an intellectual exchange with Mr. Alexander Cummings, if you write a communication, it's not fair enough that you discuss the merits of it. Come and tell the Liberian people, since this man became president, he better even address the nation on the state of the bed. You will wait because you want to throw down another person in the opposition. You use it as a medium to reinsult and judge yourself as if to say, when your father born you or your mother born you, they gave you the title deed to the Republic of Liberia that we owe you something. No, Mr. Weah. Yes. The only reason why you see the young people so desire the Weah thing is because the law for soccer in our country, in 2014, I vividly remember, when the senatorial debates were on, every time they invite Mr. Weah to debate, that is the time he's booking air tickets to travel all of the country. This man provided absolutely no agenda to the Liberian people. So yes, I see people say, the opposition is important, they rather debate, and the opposition leaders are getting beaten. I mean, it's a two-way street. That's how I see it. The people, the leaders are a reflection of the Liberian people. You have a regime that go after their political critics. You have a regime that will go. Look, we all want
I mean, and nobody say anything about it. Just the other day, the chairman of the Unity Party House was got by fire. That could have been an ordinary, no matter who, ordinary citizen. The country owns its own revolution happened to explain to him and cause of fire. What happened to emergency response? What happened to who gave people our country? Also, the only fire truck, they got fire truck and down to the president house. So we must be careful here. You see, some people do their daisy on run. Even the opposition figure. Since the United States brought sanction on those three, looking elements of the Weah administration, what the Liberians were waiting for? You waiting for Mr. Barker, who is almost at the twilight of his life, to call you to action to protest? Only Barker may not have such calories. Yes, I agree. He must be engaging. So your caller who talk about the purple and the funky scenario, we are running a country here. You need to understand there's not a village square where you come with these, African proverbs to enlighten our consciousness. Speak to the issue. Barker on the microphone. He wants to be president of our country. It's important that you defend the issue. Yes, we don't just support people because they have good intention for public office. Liberians are talking society and worker all of a sudden will change the country. No, we want to hear his ideas. Let him tell us the ideas. So those ideas get segmented. Do I believe that he's a delicate and respectable public servant? Yes. But a leader must be one who will be willing to take our questions. We must cross-examine you. So if you have the ability or you have enough of time to respond to Mr. Ellen's Cummings letter, let him accept the challenge as Mr. Cummings told him in the letter, to pick the time and the venue to come and debate ideas.
You lay in.
Come and debate ideas.
Thank you.
Now you write your communication. You go to school. You write papers. Professor say, okay, Anthony, you put your name on it, come and tell me what's in your paper. So now we are coming to the debate.
We must come to the debate, but we all know.
Hold on, we invited to the debate, Anthony.
We're still taking callers. We'll get back to you. Let the Liberian people contribute. We will not come to the debate. But here's the thing, though. Now suspended, disgrace, and sanction President Weah's de facto president, Nathaniel Magay, some time ago invited Mr. Cummings to the debate. Mr. Cummings said, no, I don't want you. And I've argued that, hey, Cummings, why could we not take on that guy and just destroy him? Right? But that's a little side attraction there. Let's take more calls here, or Robert will get back to you. Then
it's official in Bond County, but guess who'll be running for senator? He's being petitioned.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
We have 0609. We see the name Jerome. What's your full name and where you joining us from?
This is Jerome Roberts calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right, let us hear you.
Yeah, I would just go straight to this refugee stuff that people are dragging around here talking about. I left from Liberia 1996 to go to Bujumbura in particular, in Ghana. I lived in Ghana from 1996 to 2000. I worked with the Welfare Council. I worked with a group called the War Child, and I also worked with the UN to repatriate people that went back to Liberia before I came over here. But in doing all this job or working in places, I've never seen Joe Weah coming on the camp there to say he's coming to come do something or devour or fool or talk to people. I did not see one day Joe Weah from 96 to 2000. I was there. People say they want fight and this and that. But I lived there from 96 to 2000. I worked in all the organizations. I've never seen Joe Weah on that camp to say, okay, I'm coming here to come and talk to the refugee or even give them something. I didn't see it. You see? Right. And coming to Yeke and Mr. Cummings. Yeke, we all don't agree with Yeke, but just what Waru said, what Yeke is passing through, people are not feeling it. People are not looking at it. So they're just looking at the water coming from out of his mouth. When you put your man to the wall, that he can't go, he got to do something to release himself. The material is the cry.
And to your point, well, Yeke to his credit, right? Let me hold you there, Jerome. Yeke to his credit has been taking the appropriate legal actions You know, and he's won most of the time. Like the recent one that happened when Saji and other staff at the legislature prevented a lawmaker
Physically.
entering section.
Physically.
I mean, how in the war they physically stop him? That was an affront to the lawmaker, irrespective of whether you disagree with Yeka Koluba. For a
And the court refused to take his case.
For a staffer to stop a lawmaker duly elected by his people, I don't know what kind of country we have. But that staffer had to act because they have a black people. You know, and he sued them. So Yeka has always taken the legal action. He's always winning, but the other unorthodox insult, he should get rid of it. It's not helping. The legal action has been helping him. Please conclude.
I agree.
I think that's the same thing for us are saying. The same thing for us saying that Yeka have been pushed to the wall to make him behave the way he's behaving. You see?
Thank you.
So Yeka got no man or girl, no right to come out against that. You see? But because the thing is, they're not saying the man. The man have sued them and they came out to pay the man. They don't get family. They're not saying on the man. So why you want the money on the two?
And that's the same thing. That's the point I'm continuing to say, and Rabbi agree with me. The opposition sits by. Yeka is a young man, soldier. Cummings has never gone to Yeka, and maybe he's doing a background he does not want to see. What is opposition? What are they doing? This is a member of their community. The guy who does the daily work for them, be strangulated by the government, and they are just there.
Right.
Hey, come on.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's leave it there. Let's take the next caller there. Who's the next caller here? That would be phone number ending in 6809. Your name and where you're joining us from, please.
6806. Go ahead.
6806. Please go ahead. That caller is not ready. Let's go to the next one there. Evis, Morris, let us hear you.
Thank you, Mr. C. I appreciate the show tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say this to some of these people who are talking about the president debating with Cummings. They're not equal. Cummings is not even a legislator. He doesn't have any government position. They're not on the same playing field. When it comes to presidential debate, and maybe two of them could be on the same stage to debate.
Aren't they both political leaders of political parties? So what are you talking about? Joshua is a political leader of political party.
Joe Biden said he would debate somebody who think he will run for president.
President, we are a lot of press conference. This is a very president we are. Hold on, Evans. This is a very president we are. I went to the party's headquarters. Hold on, Evans. Evans, hold on. President, we are went to a party's headquarters, right? And he said, today I'm not here as President we are. I'm here as citizen. And he was able to speak. So let him take out the presidential gown and go debate a fellow citizen. What is wrong with that? I don't think he'll be committing a crime.
He said about what that skinny guy. Said that you read.
Yeah,
the president being extremely violent.
Whatever you guys are saying. But the point is, he's the president. Cummings is not the president.
All right.
He's not the president. So we don't gotta debate him. He makes the rule. He's the president. So whether Cummings let him deal with it. But let me get to my second point. My second point is, what wrong if he support that model? What wrong if he support that model?
A minute. That's it.
Chancellor will put a phone on a negative people from the southeast, and somebody who get money, who get a means to support the people, you must sit down and watch them kill.
Circumstantial evidence.
No, it's on substance. No, don't say that.
What's wrong with it? So if you're
but let him admit it. Nothing wrong with it. Let him admit it.
Why are other men talking behind me?
Gentlemen, don't hijack the caller. Go ahead. Make your point again. It was not clear. What you said? Nothing wrong with President Weah or supporting Weah.
Your armchair committee. You're just hitting on George Weah. What's hitting on the man? Why hitting on the man so much for? Yeah, I'm not a George Weah supporter, but I get so fed up when I hear people sitting here, you're talking, running them up when they know the jealous of the man. The other man, we on all the platform. All the platform wanted to castigate the president.
So, Mr. Morris, your point is,
shut the tie on this. Shut the tie on the platform.
Hold on now. Be careful now, Morris. Be careful. Your point here, Morris, hold on.
But thank you for taking the argument to see. All I gotta say.
All right, let's leave it that. Let's take leave of him. I think the point he's trying to make, but in a different tone, is hey, what is wrong with President Weah? I mean, what is wrong if President Weah actually did? Prince Johnson, we all saw him killing people. They elected him. All right. Mr. George Boley was involved with the war. We know he was LPC, right? And he's got elected, and many others got elected who were part of the war. So even if President Weah did, what is wrong with it? I'm saying
nothing.
I think
it's admitted.
Many things wrong with it, and I'm not prepared to go for it.
Anthony, you have to put it in context.
Mm-hmm.
We were all there's some people who were directly part of the war. Victims were indirectly part of the war. There are people who were part of the war trying to stop the war. They got involved on some different levels. So when people say part of the war, doesn't necessarily mean that you were part of the destruction. You were part of what got Liberia to where Liberia is right now.
But if you contributed money, I will even hold you. I would think you bear the greatest responsibility because you provided the arms. In the case of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, don't we all accountable on that?
Absolutely. But again, but like I said, there's facts to substantiate that. With regards to the other Romans, we have no facts.
All right. Yes.
Yeah, I want to say this to my brother. Just left the line, my brother. Y'all got to come up with different things now by being jealous of President Weah now. I mean, you see the man accomplished so much. Somebody just will become president. Yes, it's an accomplishment. We give it to him. But why would we be jealous? This is our country too. I know I will not eat today because President Weah ain't giving full money, so I'm jealous of him. I will not wear no clothes. I will not drive car because I'm jealous of President Weah. 6 years ago, President Weah could barely pay $200 in child support. This man was borrowing people car. This is the man I'm jealous of. If he was serious country president, Weah can never even become a dog catcher. I'll give it to you.
And to add to that, I mean, were Americans jealous of Trump and criticizing for all the nonsense he was doing?
That's a small thinking.
Come on, man. This is our country. This is our country. Georgia is woman. Even if we go by majority rule, we are in a majority here. He's been given a privilege to serve us and be our best representation. It is our role as citizens to hold him accountable on his poor actions and inactions. We have to do that. That is not no jealousies. Come on, bro. Come on, don't reduce it to that. But let's go back to the call. Let us bring in this phone number ending in 4505. Your name and where you're joining us from, please.
This is Jerry Dobley. I'm calling from Worcester, Mass.
Chairman.
You have a minute, Chairman. Go ahead.
Hello, brother. How you doing, brother? How you doing, my brother?
I wanted to buy y'all.
Let me get to the issue.
Please.
Even though I'm now an ANC member, let me get a little credit to the APC man. You know, the man in the seventh place, so he really want for the public to know it, so he just all around the area renting. By making the president of the retort, I give him the credit for that. So, you know, for every opinion pool, the conduct, Joe Bwaga on top of things, so come in, let me have you renting. So I gave the APC man the credit for that one, even though I'm not an ANC man. The issue in Liberia now to the most of our people are afraid because when a lot of people just lost him, they just be keeping yourself in your little corner. Yourself, you don't want to lose. Opposition political party, what a government in waiting, majority of them are afraid. And you can't call them doing all the better well. During the 50th term, I was working in the Capitol building. What Carol Gray and Solomon John were used to fight in that era. The man ran to call real my boss. They did all type of things. It is CDC that need to do protect in Liberia. When I was in Liberia. So when you get doing all the work, they shouldn't bring you get learning from them. Thank you for the show. I appreciate you guys. Let us continue to talk for Liberia. Other people, they are in the Western country. They enjoy all the facilities in the country, but they will look at wrong thing and defend it. They tell me to extent if I have my own will. I will say all the men battle to Liberia. I will take something. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Fair point. Next caller here is
nonsense.
Yes, let me hear from you. Your name and where you're joining us from, please. You have a minute.
Yeah, it's Ophir and Dwelling, my brother and Rob. I want to say thank you to you guys for the show. This is my first time calling on this show.
there's a fellow that called and stated that his sister was in Abidjan when Joe Weah went there. Look, there's a brother and there's a CEO. Let some people start creating false story. I want that fellow, if he's listening, let me tell us what year Joe Weah went to Cote d'Ivoire and won refugee camp. I was in Cote d'Ivoire for 12 years. When do we have refugee camp in Abidjan? We never had refugee camp in Abidjan. It was 2003, we had a repatriation camp before later on. We Liberians calling it refugee camp, but it was not a refugee camp. It was a repatriation camp. The first repatriation camp was called Abobo Anador. They were had the first repatriation camp. I was in Cote d'Ivoire, Abidjan, precisely for 12 years. I was there when Joe Weah calling that leaf between the Liberian, between all the Liberian areas in this place or Kobodi, all the university campus. They all had that league, and the champion for that league was Plateau de Gouy. I played for Plateau de Gouy. Plateau de Gouy took the female and the male. Only you people took the basketball away from us. And so people shouldn't come on stage to be saying the kind of thing that Joe Weah won't refugee camp. Maybe that Guinea people can all the Guinea. Maybe that Ghana people can all the Ghana. I must be very clear on the point. Because ask anybody from 2006 of war. I entered Cote d'Ivoire in 1990. I was there when they built a road in Ghana. I was there. I went to Liberia for 2 months. I returned back to Cote d'Ivoire. I moved to Abidjan. I was in Abidjan for 12 years. The time from going to other countries and coming back. I was in Abidjan for 12 years. I was there when Babu took war. I was there when Kei took war. I was there for, I even voted for Babu. I'm a Liberian, but I went out of Abidjan. I voted for Babu. Some person come on stage, they can force me. Joe Weah was living, Joe Weah used to live in Abidjan too. He was living in a area called Makori. When Joe Weah can you go fast in Makori? How we used to call Joe Weah? We used to call people support the press for us. Because when you come, I want 3 hours for $50 for $10, Joe Weah can.
So your point here is that he went to Ivory Coast, you are saying, but he did not go to the refugees camp and he did not provide any assistance to people who were in refugee camps.
Because here, I challenge, I can put my number on, I challenge anybody.
Okay.
In Cote d'Ivoire for 12 straight years. The only person that attempted to go to where they had a refugee or not a refugee camp was Jonathan in Ghana. Well, Yule, they had a Liberian team in Abidjan called Yule. I play for Yule for all.
right. La vite vers mon ami. Merci beaucoup. Bonne nuit. Merci beaucoup. Bonne nuit, mon ami.
There was definitely.
I got a shout out though. I'm sorry.
There was
go ahead.
definitely a Liberian community led.
All right.
Gentlemen,
let's take the final calls here as well. The callers don't want to give up today. They're calling. The next person here is Pape Flomo. And Pape Flomo, please make a full disclosure that you support President Weah, or that is your right.
We all know Pape Flomo.
Pape Flomo, you are live. Please go ahead, brother.
Yeah, my name is Augusta Sulu. First of all, the guy who just got out of the phone, he said he just indicted himself. He said he illegally voted in the Ivorian election because he just said.
Oh man, I heard that over here.
Man, that's not what we're talking about.
No, the man is making a point. Give him a chance. Chance.
Go ahead.
No, dude, that's not what we're talking about. But if the man is trying to tell you that you should take him for his word, the man lied already.
Pape Flomo, get to the point, back.
That's what I'm saying.
And you're absolutely right. I agree with you.
Don't take him for his word.
I agree with you.
There was another guy who came, he said he was on the refugee camp in Ghana from 96 to 2000, that's 4 years. The Buduguran refugee camp, that is in the central region near Kaswa, has been there for 25 years. And if you stay in the camp for 4 years, you cannot use your 4 years in Georgia. I never came there. We went on that camp when we were kids in 1990, October 3rd, when we were children. I left that camp for 20 years. So I saw Joe on the camp 3 times. And the good way he did to us, I am a living beneficiary. So our brother Monet Kishan, who said, I was on the camp and I was taking Joey a picture. He stayed on the camp 3 years. Not 3 years, 3 weeks. He stayed on that camp for 3 weeks. And out of 20 years, if he stayed there for 3 weeks, how would you have seen Georgia come in the camp? And let me tell you something else. You guys talking about debate. President Weah should not dignify Mr. Cummings. You know, in America here, with the Democrats and the Republicans that debate, if you don't reach certain threshold, you don't even stay on that stage to debate as a Democrat or a Republican. Mr. Cummings is way down at 7%. President Weah should not even dignify him to give him a debate.
Thank you.
Because me and President Weah, they are not in the same class. Now the thing is,
let me
ask this question to you guys, especially those who are.
Papa Flomo, please do us a favor here, right? Because this is a debate. Some people are saying President Weah was never there to assist anybody. I heard you saying you benefited from President Weah directly. That was when you were in Ghana at the refugee camp. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what specific assistance do you know of others who benefited, and what kind of assistance did he give to them? Because there's so much disagreement. As a media guy, we want to get the facts. That's what we care about. Go ahead.
We were 17 kids. This is what happened. When they went to play a game in Ghana, after we beat Ghana, George and I were in the bus, and we were questioned. And he said, listen, I'm in the bus right now. I can't do anything, but we're going to the camp. You guys, he's Dr. Peabody. Dr. Peabody on School FM business. He said, yes. I saw President Weah after the game, the lone star players, they came there. He said, again, you're going to meet me in the camp. So we talked to one guy called Oko. May so rest in peace, he's dead. He took us in the camp. We met Joshua there. We went to the Budubra refugee camp. I think behind Erosine. And then he gave us his mom's address. He gave us some money, and he shared some rice. You know what happened? Saturday, you come to my mom's house, and you make sure you go to your headmaster. Those days in Ghana, he used to call it headmaster. You go to your headmaster, you bring letters to show that you guys are in school, because he had said, this beginning want to call him, and then call him now to lie to him. We went to respected headmasters. We brought the letters. We went to George Weah's house, and he paid 17 of us school fees. That was George Gay, Washington Stevens, Bobby Tarr, and a couple of guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We heard you. Thank you so very much. That is important. Thank you. Let us take another caller here.
Callers?
Yeah, I think we'll take the last caller yet, and we'll call it a day. Let's take this one from. Yeah, thank you there, Fadiga. Let's take Fadiga here. Mr. Fadiga, go ahead.
No, it's not Fadiga. It's Otello. Go ahead, Otello.
Otello. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Otello,
you.
okay. How you doing, man, brother? How you doing?
1 minute, please. We have more callers.
Okay.
Yeah, they call that you say, Georgia, for my career, I know that people can lie. I live in Africa. I live in Africa since 1990. I live in Africa. From Darley, I came to Abidjan. Georgia man had a husband.
Let's talk about the letters. Leave this.
Let's talk about the letter. Let us not reduce this thing to George Weah have, George Weah didn't have.
I don't want people to.
We'll have a separate. We'll have a separate discussion about George Weah charity.
Let me do a letter. Okay, let me do a letter now. That letter, I will take George Weah not to easily respond to Cummings. Cummings is not nowhere around George Weah limit.
Okay.
Is he not a citizen? Is he not a citizen? Is it not his president?
No, just and you have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds, and we got more callers.
Yeah, I won't go to history. George Weah can respond to Cummings, because Cummings is like you having a little houseboy that working with you. Then your houseboy tell you, "Oh, I won't call police only because you beat me."
All right, Otello, let us leave it right there. Let us leave it right there.
I'm coming to you. Let me tell you something. George Weah can respond to Cummings, because Cummings is nowhere.
Thank you.
When George Weah was George Weah,
thank you. Daniel, let's take the other one because of time here.
Go ahead, Fadiga.
All right. Man, this discussion is interesting. The thing is, the biggest question I want to ask you, what does it matter? What a George Weah. I left Africa too. I went up in 1992. I stayed there until 1996 and came back. I didn't eat money from George Weah. Some people did. But what does it matter? Is that the reason why George Weah will become a president? Is that the reason why he should be president? So, I mean, the question, the reason people, the justification for, I mean, George Weah could be president for any other thing, football, putting Liberia on the map. But because of generosity, I mean, and look what, it's just so sad. Let me go to the letter. People thought, the thing about Liberia, and even a debate between Cummings and President Weah,
the standard have been set so low in Liberia that you'll be surprised. George Weah don't need to say nothing to even win that debate. I'm not saying that he's going to be the best, the most eloquent. I'm not saying that he want to say things, but it's when you play on a field that doesn't have no rule, I mean, anybody can be star. Look at, we live in a country where people, they got a man that costs really private parts and people, and that person will get more view than you guys that said that making sense. Just look at that.
Yeah.
As soon as people come on and get thousands of listeners, parents, people that should be saying that listening to what goes on in the country. Now that country that you would say go debate, it's a waste of time.
Thank you.
I think we just need to treat Nigeria how it is when people get to play. I mean, sometimes now I just say that
I think that is a fair point, and gentlemen, we can agree. We all see that there are other platforms that are doing much better job raising the issue, having discussion that when other nationals listen to say, okay, yeah, we should respect some Liberian or respect Liberia, the country. People
but we don't like substance.
Education show, very informative.
Yep.
Look at the panel, the caliber of people on the panel.
Right.
But look at your mind dip. The
Exactly.
other one, all right, that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Thanks, Father God. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you. Let's call us. Dennis,
man.
let's get the last caller so we can close this, please.
Yeah, I think the opposition are playing a very dangerous game, and this is why I would say that. To go after the things that George Weah did or he didn't do is a failing tactic, and this is why I say that. You can acknowledge what the guy did and pivot and go against the guy's wrong policy. But for you, in less than a year or a year and few months to undo the things that Liberian people know about George Weah, I think you are making a mistake. No, I was in Ghana. Some of us who went, we saw some of the things that the guy did. That still does not qualify Weah to be president. But to deny the humanitarian work this guy did, it's just like when you were hungry and someone gave you a piece of money. Now you became rich, then you tell the man, look, man, that's just that small money you gave me. Look, at the time you were hungry, that money meant a whole lot to you. So you needed to appreciate it. And this is the wrong track that Liberian people are going on. We must not have done, he might not have built schools or mansions, but he was there with some Liberians. Why can't we acknowledge that and pivot? We are going to win this argument any day. Opposition. When you will win this argument, we can win this argument against the guy. He will win. Just say, hey, Mr. Weah, we know you did all these things and pivot. How does that
Jordan, I agree with you. We have educational issues in the country. We got health issues in the country. We got rape issues in the country. The issue of war crimes. Even the issue that's just enormous security issues in the country. They should focus on those issues and forget about what George Weah did. We all saw George Weah live in the flesh. Even if he didn't do any of those things that people are debating. What's about playing for Lone Star? That is something, and that was his field. We all contribute in our own field. So, gentlemen, we want to say a very big thank you to all of our callers that will do it for the cause. Gentlemen,
hold on, Anthony. There's one more caller here. Abel, Ben, go ahead, Abel. 2 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, all guys. Thanks for the show. This is Abel calling from Minnesota. Just quick point. CDC been carrying the lies about going to the camp and help Liberians.
Oh God, this camp thing.
Let's say the record. You can even ask George Weah, brother Clarence Weah, he would tell you. We put one on the camp on loans I was playing, they used Accra Stadium as a home base. They came to camp for Abidjan in a long bus, they stopped in Area A and encouraged Liberians to go on the field. They went on the field. After super minor game. Okay? So upon did not go on a camp as a humanitarian. They are living Ivory Coast. The only person that went playing for the dream.
Let us leave this, George. We are whether or not you are at the camp. Let's focus on the serious issue, please. Can you speak to another issue?
But it's a serious issue because that's part of the serious. That's the narrative people bought into.
No. I don't think what President we had did many years ago is serious issue right now for Liberia. That's the past.
Okay, 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
1 minute.
No, 30 seconds, please.
Liberians. Okay, but I'm telling you, the one person that went to Donane was Bocha. He carried playing days to in Donane. They played Larissa. So George Weah did not go to Donane as a claim.
Thank you.
So when we have to set a reference,
you see it. That's our country there. Serious issues being raised. We're talking about Joey gave somebody football, you pay somebody school fee. That's what we're talking about today.
And I think Anthony, I think the last caller said it right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you cannot dismiss George Weah as his humanitarian gesture throughout his career. You cannot dismiss the fact that during our darkest day, there was this shining star, the world best, who came from Liberia. It was probably one of the best things that came from Liberia. And politics aside, every single Liberian were proud of him. You know, I like the Liberians who would argue about the substance of his policies, the substance of his leadership in government, and still say, I love the guy. Like my friend Darlu always says that. I love this guy as a soccer player. I love him. You know, every Liberian love him. But I think politics have clouded all of these things where people are willing to dismiss even how great of a guy he was on the field, how great of an humanitarian he was. Because of politics, you're not going to win the argument. I think you win more of the argument with regards to the substance, what he has done as president of Liberia, what he did as senator. One last point I want to make is the caller who said George Weah should not debate Cummings and you know, try to condescendingly speak on Cummings' status. Look, at the end of the day, here is a man who, and I don't like some of the decisions Cummings has made. But here is a man who went to Liberia just in 2 years before the election in 2017 and came top 5. That's tremendous. You can argue the percent, 7%. That's a political narrative, but you cannot overlook the fact that he made tremendous strides in where he finished in 2017 and what he has done since 2017. The fact that he is part of an integral part of the conversation politically as top 3 candidate just behind Joseph Boakai. It's a celebration for Cummings all by himself. Do you know how many political candidates came from the diaspora, went back to Liberia, and the politics did not even gain traction? So don't undermine the role that he has played. He's a political figure. He's an opposition leader in the country, and we may not like some of his decisions. But George Weah can debate him because he's vying for that job. He wants the job George Weah currently holds, and it will be a huge mistake if you say George Weah cannot debate him because they're not on the same level. I disagree with that.
Fine point. Yeah,
thank you so much, Robert. To my boy John Carver, it was a great night. I got a new friend. I kind of like you. You're a cool dude. And I want to say this about you guys. Thanks for your call. I think it made a lot of sense. But I want to say this. Look, the issue of mediocrity and excellence, you have to contrast the two. It is okay to celebrate President Weah. I always will celebrate a man because I know the joys he brought to my childhood. But when it comes to national leadership, gentlemen, this is not a joking matter. President Weah has absolutely no preparation in the field. The reason why we falter as a society, the reason why we are failing literally in almost every human development indicator is because President Weah does not have the foundation and preparedness to govern. He does not, under any circumstance. Love him for what you love him for. But I want to say this. Just because the gullibility of our people catapult you into the higher echelon of national leadership, that doesn't mean you're at a higher level than people who are kind of living on the lower level. Anybody can become a representative in Liberia. That doesn't make you better than me or better than anybody else. It is not about jealousy when we speak about our country. It's about we jealously guard the viability of our society. We continue to sit while Liberia is being destroyed because you say, listen, this criminal is my criminal. If you talk against my criminal, your life is threatened. If you come to Liberia, this was happening to you. This is lunacy. Nobody has a monopoly on violence. You have to understand what we talk about. We talk about Liberia being relegated to this position of shame and permanent disgrace. And yet we all say and accept this. It is not about President Weah. It's about picking the best and brightest among us to lead and change this country for the better. so we can leave a better legacy for our children. President Weah is not that person. Let's celebrate President Weah and whatever he did. But when it comes to selecting national leadership, we have to find the brightest and the most serious and people who are prepared to occupy that position. Thank the audience tonight so much.
And I want to John Dualo and Robert for, in thanking the audience. I think we had a great discussion here. Dualo is right and Robert is right. President Weah was that light of our country when the bloodletting was going on. And many people who are in other countries, when you ask them, hey, where you from? Once you say Liberia, they say, oh, George Weah. That was that symbol. It was that symbol that had shown at the time that, oh, they are decent people. You understand? They have intellect. Because just one of their kind is the world best. He lifted that flag. I love my crew, brother, when it comes to that. There's a song in Liberia that says, your area than your area.
Yeah.
We all celebrated this man. Weah himself knows this is not his area. He hesitated. He resisted to come to the era of politics. This is his decision to survive that brought this guy to politics. He got broke. He needed to survive. Just as some of us made a decision to come to the United States to survive, to live a better life. And when you are here, what do? Do you insult people? And when you insult people, do you want us to respect you? When you are in the best place to make good, or decisions that will better your life and the life of your family, and then you are now a better representation, you want us to celebrate you, and people are saying that, oh, you're jealous? This is the situation we're talking about here. President Weah holds the highest office that belongs to all of us. And his actions and decisions are poor enough. It is our responsibility as citizens to question him. He must do what is right. Failures are all over the place. And it's sad that when we are talking about these things, people think we hate President Weah. Leaders in other countries are doing better. We are way behind, 200 years behind. Look at the issue of Zogos in the country. I mean, come to think about it. This man has never had a single press conference. We have reached out to an office so many times. Let's talk to you. The man is refusing to speak to Liberian media. But he's a Liberian president. I mean, come on. And people can say that.
But a promise was made to you. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
All right. And I hope we will be happy to interview President Weah. We'll be happy because he needs to answer questions.
Thanks for that, Anthony.
He's governing this country. He must answer questions. We're not begging you for that.
It's the man did it. Yes. Thank you.
We're not begging. That's his responsibilities. Why am I here? Why are people criticizing me? Why am I talking? Because it comes with what I'm doing. So I avail myself, and these guys have agreed. So that's what it is. Thank you for coming, watching, and sharing, and everything else. Gentlemen, thank you. The song says we are all Liberians. As always, that song takes us home. And bye-bye, gentlemen.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.